Welcome to the What is Stoicism podcast.
Oliver Burkeman opens his book 4,000 Weeks with a startling reminder. The average human lifespan is absurdly, terrifyingly, insultingly short. If we're fortunate enough to live to 80, we will have had roughly 4,000 weeks. It's an immediate eye-opener for any reader who has never considered their life in those terms. Years can feel broad and abstract. Weeks feel countable. Before we have even moved beyond the introduction, we realise that life may amount to only a few thousand consecutive 7-day blocks, and that many of them have already passed. It may seem like a morbid way to begin a book, but the purpose isn't despair. The purpose is to provoke clarity. To be reminded of life's brevity is to be invited to reconsider how we're spending the time that remains. It's strange how, when we speak of age, we so often claim ownership over the years already gone. In some languages, this is quite literal. In Italian, o 20 anni does not mean I am 20 years old, but I have 20 years. But those years aren't really ours. We don't have them. We had them, and now they're out of reach. Our obsession with age is often little more than a count of what has already passed. Why worry so much about how old we're getting when we don't know how old we'll get? We may reach 4,000 weeks, we may not. Regardless, what's truly ours is not the time behind us, but what remains. And if what remains is enough for us, then we're not time poor. We're not old in the only sense that matters. We're alive, with some amount of time still available to be used well. A careful appreciation of the immensity of space and time can gently uncover this knowledge. It reminds us that similar events have repeated throughout history, that human nature hasn't changed by any startling degree since the age of ancient philosophers, and that life we have, however brief, is still capable of containing richness, attention, meaning, and depth. The comfort is that even a short life, if lived attentively, can hold no less richness of experience than those that came before or those that will come after. The length of life matters, of course, but the quality of our attention matters too. Burkeman ends 4,000 Weeks with a kind of optimistic symmetry. The average human lifespan is short, yes, but that isn't a reason for constant despair or anxiety-fueled panic about making the most of every moment. Instead, it can be a cause for relief. We get to give up on the impossible project of becoming perfectly optimized, infinitely capable, emotionally invincible, and fully independent. Then we can begin work on what's actually possible. This idea connects powerfully with a story Seneca tells in his essay on tranquility of mind about a philosopher named Julius Canus. Seneca's purpose in telling the story is to show how a person can maintain calmness of mind even in the face of extreme adversity. His underlying message is one we encounter repeatedly in Stoicism. When we accept what we can't control, we're better able to focus on what we can control. And when we focus on what is ours to do, we're more likely to make the best of even a terrible situation while saving ourselves unnecessary anxiety. The circumstances Julius Canus faced were far more extreme than anything most of us will encounter in daily life. But that's part of what makes the example so encouraging. If someone can preserve tranquility of mind when facing death itself, surely we can practice something similar when the stakes are much lower. According to Seneca, Canus had been involved in a dispute with the Emperor Gaius. When he took his leave, Gaius informed him that orders had been given for his execution. Canus replied, astonishingly, "Thank you, best of emperors." Seneca hesitates to interpret exactly what Canus meant, but he's clear that the response was great-hearted. Canus knew Gaius was unlikely to change his mind. He didn't cling to false hope. He didn't waste the remaining days of his life in panic over what was no longer within his power. 10 days passed before the execution. Seneca asks us to consider how Canus spent them. Was he consumed by anxiety? Apparently not. When the centurion arrived to summon him, Canus was playing a game of drafts. Before leaving, he counted the pieces and said to his opponent, "Mind you don't pretend you won after I'm dead." Then turning to the centurion, he added that the officer should testify that he was one piece ahead. Seneca's interpretation is unforgettable. Canus was not merely playing a board game, he was playing a game at the expense of death. His friends understandably were sorrowful at the prospect of losing him, but Canus asked them why they were grieving. They wondered whether souls were immortal. He would soon find out. Here, Seneca says, was tranquility in the midst of the storm. Here was a mind worthy of immortality. Canus continued to practice philosophy right up to death itself, and even wished to learn something from death. The story is striking not because it suggests we should be indifferent in a cold or inhuman way. Rather, it shows what becomes possible when a person has deeply accepted the limits of control. Canus could not prevent the emperor's order. He couldn't guarantee his survival. But he could still decide how to meet the time that remained. That's the connection between Seneca's story and Burkeman's reminder. We don't control how many weeks we'll receive. We don't know whether we'll reach 4,000 of them, fall short, or exceed them. We can't reclaim the weeks already spent. We can't command the future to unfold according to our wishes. But we can decide how to inhabit the present. We can give up on the fantasy of becoming invulnerable, endlessly productive, perfectly optimized and immune to limitation. We can stop treating life as a project that must be mastered before it can be lived. And we can begin, instead, to work on what's gloriously possible. We can practice calm in the face of uncertainty. We can turn our attention toward what matters. We can accept the brevity of life without wasting what remains in fear of that brevity. We can meet each week, each day, each hour as something entrusted to us for a time. The point isn't to become Julius Canus overnight. The point isn't to pretend we would all be capable of joking over a board game on the way to execution. The point is to notice the direction in which such an example points. If life is short, then panic will not lengthen it. If death is certain, then denial won't remove it. If time is limited, then the task isn't to conquer time, but to live within it wisely. 4,000 weeks, give or take, may seem insultingly brief, but even a brief life can be lived with courage, attention, humour, dignity, and tranquility. And if what remains is all we truly have, then perhaps the only sensible response is to begin using it well.